Welcome to another episode of Reverse Ambition, a podcast that focuses on those who take a risk to follow their dreams and passion. My name is Kelsey Cooper, aka the Social Broker, and today's guest is a dynamic brother who's multifaceted, computer tech graduate from college, who moved to New York to do advertising, but his passion in art leads him to Jamaica. And I want this brother to tell his story in terms of, his how, why, when, what motivates him. Today's guest is no other than Andre Woolery. What's up, good brother?
What's going on, man?
What's going on with you,
Thank you for having me.
Nah, bro. Thank you for getting on here. I've known you for a while. I've been following you for a minute, and I've been inspired by your journey, bro. So, and I know others will be inspired by it. So what I usually do, I usually ask my guests, to walk me through their journey in terms of where they grew up, where they went to school, what they majored in, and, to tell their story. So go right ahead,
Okay.
man.
All right. Growing up, most of my growing up happened in northern New Jersey in a town called Morristown. I come from a Jamaican family, so a lot of back and forth where it was like pretty much like my early childhood. I lived in Jamaica with like my aunt and my grandmother, and then came back to the States, and then pretty much every summer I just went to Jamaica to spend time with my family. So it was just a lot of back and forth until I probably hit high school. I went to college at Duke University in North Carolina. I majored in computer science, and that was primarily because I had no clue what I wanted to major in. But at the time, I was good at math naturally, and my parents were like, yeah, you love computers, you're so into technology, it's the wave of the future, just go ahead and do this computer science thing. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll give it a shot, give it a try.
So it wasn't something that you were passionate about. It was just something that your parents suggested.
I mean, it was something that I was curious about.
Okay.
I wasn't passionate about it. It was kind of one of those things that like they were 100% right. Like, I was fiddling with all types of programs on my computer and doing all types of things on the internet. So I think I was a little bit advanced at the time, just because of my curiosity. And I mean, to this day, I still have I just love technology as a whole. So I don't think that thread of interest and curiosity has gone anywhere. It's just the way I channel it is much different now. And back then they wanted me to focus pretty much on programming. I ended up, I liked it, but I ended up not loving it as much. And I found myself feeling like I was starving some side of myself. So like at the last year of college, my senior year, I pretty much decided to try to take some graphic design classes because I felt like there was like a creative side of me that just was not coming out as much, and I knew I wanted to get in advertising, so I was like, I need to build out a creative portfolio, so let me just take some courses to kind of build those skills up and see what can happen.
Okay.
And back then, like, my understanding of advertising was you were a creative director, and that's the only people that worked in an advertising agency. After I graduated, it turned into how do I get into an advertising agency? So I just was trying to find a way in the door to eventually become a creative director, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, like, Ogilvy was starting a digital media group. They had media planning there that was traditional for a while, but they started actually having a practice that was focused more on digital. And because my background was technical computer science, I think someone just decided to give me a shot.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, I luckily got a job as a assistant media planner in Midtown at Ogilvy. I think I was like making like $26,000 a year.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, this is the best thing that could ever happen to me.
It's around what, 2003, 2004.
Yeah. This is summer 2003. I think I started in August of 2003.
Right.
At that job.
How was that
Uh,
experience?
it was great. I mean, honestly, Ogilvy is a pretty big, well-known advertising agency, and they have such an immersive kind of onboarding and training program for everyone that works there. So, immediately in that first year, I learned so much about advertising. I learned so much about working in the industry, the company, everything. So it was like I immediately jumped in, and it was like, wow, this is I've grown tremendously in the time that I've been here, just by all the things that I've been exposed to and all the people and talent and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously New York as a whole, it just gives you a certain kind of energy and vibe and ambition. So it was a great experience, and I worked there for like 4 years.
Okay. 4 years out of college.
4 years out of college, and the first few years it was like I was basically doing my job during the day, and then at nighttime I'd take these classes to kind of build out a creative portfolio, thinking that was still what I wanted to do. And then just somewhere halfway along the way, I got into this innovation group at Ogilvy. And that's kind of like back to where it was like, oh, like I'm really interested in technology and innovation. And this group was primarily trying to bring new ideas and new thoughts to some of their clients. And the things that we were trying to do at the time was like in-game advertising, mobile ads that were like pretty much sending SMS text to people based on weather alerts and all these things. So now I think back and I'm like, oh, that's like so basic.
Right. But that was innovative back then.
Yeah, at that time it was like no one was doing it. It was like cutting edge. Like you probably had like just a few vendors that could do it, and it was like a long process. And that kind of like opened me up to a whole other side of like the whole industry in terms of driving innovation and pushing people along and using technology in interesting ways.
Mm-hmm. So where did your passion for art came about? When did that? When did you? When was that? When was that fire started? When did it start?
I think I always had a passion for art. When I was younger, before college, I used to like draw comic books. I used to do all types of like artistic and creative things. I even used to like watch that Bob Ross show and like follow along and paint the landscapes, and then like hustle and sell all the soccer moms in like on my team, like all these paintings and stuff like that. So once again, like I've always had an interest in art, and I've always had a creative side.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I started working, it was like I got so much into like the advertising world and technology and things along those lines, it just kind of completely dropped off.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't until around 2009 I kind of felt once again this kind of internal urging that like, hey, I need to do something more creative, something with my hands. And I mapped out this kind of 1 month retreat from work where
Mm-hmm.
I decided to take a sabbatical for about a month, and I mapped out pretty much every single day of those 30 days. I had a different creative project or some thing that I wanted to produce or achieve to experiment and see what did I really like.
Right.
So the first day, so like the first day was like painting, another day was photography, another one was getting back into coding. There was just a variety of different things that I just wanted to kind of explore and see what really got me kind of fired up. And like I said, that first day was painting, and it was like immediately I was like, oh man, damn, this is actually this. I want to do this tomorrow.
So basically, you picked up painting. Like you used to do stuff in high school, but you just, 2009, just started painting again. Just like that.
Yeah, it was kind of just like the funny thing is, my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. She like saw some of the stuff I used to sketch in high school, and she like the Christmas before, she bought me like this whole easel and paint set, and I
Mm-hmm.
let it sit there for like a year. And she was like, I thought you were gonna like this gift or whatever. And then it sat dusty, and then all of a sudden, like when this opportunity, or like at least when I stepped myself towards it, then it kind of just opened up.
So, I mean, all of a sudden it just took over. It's overwhelming. You're like, forget advertising, forget, corporate America. Art is my thing. Is that what happened, or?
No, I mean it wasn't like immediate like forget everything. It was very much like, all right, on the like all in my spare time, I'm not gonna waste it doing other stuff. I started slowing down on sports. I started slowing down on going out. I started slowing down on everything. It was like when I came home from work, it was like, all right, I'm gonna do something in my living room. On the weekends, it was like everything I did was planning around trying to create time to create artwork.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was like a slow build where after that summer, it was like I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do, spending my spare time. And then after like a year of just doing and creating and getting to the vibe, it was like I was at that point. I was like, oh man, I need to just be doing this as much as possible.
Wow.
Um,
So
uh,
this was like in what, 2010, you know.
yeah, about 2010.
So what did you do once you came to that realization that, you know, this is my new passion. This is what I need to be doing. How did you,
Yeah,
navigate
I
life?
I just I just started to it was like I started to try to bring my two worlds together because I knew so much about technology and things and advertising and media and all that stuff. I was like, all right, let me go ahead and make a website to put my art up, and let me find a way to sell it because I do stuff and I post it on like Facebook, and then everyone would be like, "Oh, are you selling that? Can I buy it?" This and that, and it was just like it became like an overwhelming thing, and I was like, I think I have to kind of find a way to sell this stuff because people are asking.
Right.
So it just turned into like me playing around and making a website and making things available for sale. And then it just kind of started to just like people started ordering prints, people started ordering commissions, and I was just like having fun with it. And it was just really just having fun and not caring about anything. And then I got to the point where I made like two pieces that people really, really liked. And then people started asking me to bring it to events for shows and things like that. And I was like, damn, like somebody wants me to bring this somewhere so other people can see it. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is like something I could take seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the same point, like I would never call myself an artist at that early moment because I just felt like there was a just major gap between myself and what I saw other people doing and all that stuff. And then the moment that I started getting more and more feedback that was in a positive way, I started it started to help validate myself in my own mind in terms of, oh, maybe this is something that I'm pretty good at. And then from there, I just started to experiment even more. And I got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm done with paint. Let me just play around and find something else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I made my first pushpin piece, which was a portrait of Jay-Z. And that was
What inspired
literally
you to do that? Like, you just kind of.
yeah, I mean, it was literally I got off a Christmas break and I finished a painting for someone and I was like, what's next? And I was just basically like, I don't want to do any paint because I think I've exhausted what I can do with paint. And then I started being like, oh, can I do some like, mixed media stuff where I put things together and assemble them? And I was looking for colorful things and it started where I was like, oh, let me try to do a thing where I take Fruit Loops and map out the colors in a certain way and like lay them down and glue them on a thing and make a portrait out of it. And then I realized that was a bad idea. And then I started like researching colorful things. And then like I was just in the house and I saw like a whole bunch of colored push pins. I was like, oh man, is there somewhere where I can get like 1,000 of these push pins? And I searched and searched and searched, and then finally found this place that sold thousands and thousands of push pins with like maybe 7 different color options, right in New York, like I think on 14th and 6th. And I just ordered a whole bunch and was like, let me just see what happens. And then it took me like 2 or 3 months, and then it was done, and I was like, damn, this is hot.
Wow.
And then I posted it on Twitter, and it was like literally the next day I woke up and my Twitter was on fire. It was like I was getting reposted by all these hip hop magazines,
Wow.
all these people. It was just like this crazy storm that happened when I woke up, and I was like, what the hell?
Wow.
Like, why is my stuff like? And these weren't even like professional photos. This was like just a snapshot from my phone that was ended up in articles,
Wow.
like on these like websites. And then people started reaching out to me, and then at that point I was like, oh, there's like a wave happening right here. Let me go ahead and try to ride it.
Right. So how did you ride it? I mean,
I mean, yeah. I mean, at that point, it was like one of those situations that I had put myself out there, and I started doing stuff, and it was like everyone that knew me or was around me kind of supported me in a way where they were the ones that kind of like pushed me to do stuff, pushed me to sell stuff. And then once I got to this point, they were like, all right, you need to go ahead and just start like making a whole bunch of stuff. So immediately after that, like I was doing like like people were asking to interview me, and I was like, I don't even know what the hell to say.
Right.
And then the rest of that year, I was like, all right, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just go ahead and let my creativity loose and not hold back, and just like create a whole bunch of stuff. So at that point, I created pretty much a whole collection of pushpin pieces. And I think like Watch the Throne was coming out at that same time or whatever, and like Obama was president. So I was just like, oh, this is kind of a crazy moment in time. I was like, this is a moment in time where you have black men that are literally dominating all of media. Like Obama's everywhere, Jay-Z and Kanye are everywhere. And it was just like, let me just see if I can do stuff that feels like they're representing pop culture right now. So it was just like, let's just make this kind of very pop-driven artwork that focuses on kind of like the black male in media and all that kind of stuff. And then it just, after that year, I had a decent collection of work. And then I literally was just like, hey, I think I want to have a show.
Okay.
Like one day I just was like, I think I want to have a show. I don't know what that means. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think I want to have a show. And it was like 2 weeks later, some dude hit me up and was like, hey, like we have this gallery and we think your work is dope. Would you want to have a show? And I was like,
wow. So you just put it out in the universe, and then all of a sudden, somebody hit you up randomly.
Yeah, I mean that's literally how this all, like every step along the way was just putting myself out there and like just putting things in the universe, and it was like the universe continually just brought the things that I wanted to me in different ways or whatever.
So basically, your art started taking over your life. Or, how did you manage that with your 9 to 5?
It just kind of it started to work really well together for a moment, because at that show, a lot of my coworkers came and like they had no idea like what I was really up to. Like the president of my company came and he was like I had no idea this is what you had going on in your spare time. And they even supported me. Like the company commissioned me to do a piece for The Office. And it just kind of, it just I felt like everyone supported it in some way.
Right.
And the only challenging thing about it was really just the tugging of the two sides of myself. Because at that point, it started to feel like there was two sides in me, where there was one side that was going into this workspace where a lot of things are dictated by a bit of like what the clients were and all those kind of things. I did have a lot of freedom, and agencies are all about creativity and innovation. So So I was expressing myself in one way during the daytime, and then at nighttime it was like I had complete creative bounds to do whatever the hell I wanted, and it was all very much with my hands. So it was kind of like this bouncing back and forth between digital and like a tactile kind of thing, and it just started to be a question in my head of like, hey, like what's the path that I should go down? Like,
Right.
should I keep doing the advertising thing, or should I do this thing that I have complete control of, that just seems to continually be rewarding me in different ways, and you know, it started a whole series of conversations with me and my wife at the time.
Your girlfriend, was she your girlfriend or your wife at the time?
Let me see, when all these conversations really started to happen, we had just got married. That's what it was. We just got married. We got married in Jamaica, and she also had been to Jamaica with me like a lot in those 2 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
So right after we got married and we came back, it was kind of like the question started to be like, is there some opportunity for us out there? Because she wanted to do something a little bit more tourism related. And then I was like, hey, like this art thing is popping off. Like that seems like the right environment to kind of try to do art full time, because one is like I have such freedom and space there, and then on top of it, I'm surrounded by family, and it just feels like a nice like incubation space to kind of do things. And then we're also like, hey, we have kids. Like if there's any time in our lives, it's now.
Right. So collectively, you guys decided to like drop everything and move to Jamaica.
Yeah, it was a collective kind of decision and conversation, because we ended up kind of talking to each other and being like, hey, like if we can have creative freedom, what is the kind of impact we can create for ourselves or for other people or whatever. And that's kind of what grounded us in saying, all right, we think that creative freedom can bring us more in this world, so we have to take a shot at it.
Right. So you were like, peace to your job, peace to your friends. Yeah. Like, I'm out.
Yeah, it was definitely like, yeah, it was peace to a lot of things too. Like, and honestly, like now that I look back at it, I didn't realize how much I was saying peace to certain things, because in my head I was like, oh, like I'll see my peoples all the time, and I was like, I'll probably be back in New York, and you know, all these different things. And in hindsight, it's kind of like we really did say peace to like everything. Like,
right.
Yeah.
So you guys picked up, moved to Jamaica. How did you guys get established? I know you built because I was following you on the gram or something. I know you built a studio and everything out there from scratch, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like, and that's kind of how Jamaica greeted us in a certain way. It was like we got there, we sold most of our stuff in New York, and then we shipped about 5 barrels and 1 box to Jamaica with like clothes and art supplies. And then my parents have a house out there, so we crashed there for a few months to kind of get settled. And while we were there, they basically were like, hey, like we have this plot of land next to us that we're not doing anything with.
Wow.
What do you want to do? And this was like, we moved there on December 5th of 2013. And a week later, we started building the studio. It was like, I called my boy, like one of my best friends out there. He does like steel work and a whole bunch of like masonry work. And I was like, hey, we want to build a studio.
What part of Jamaica, by the way?
A small little village called Chalky Hill, which is the north coast of Jamaica. It's about a 15-20-minute ride from Ocho Rios.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's up in the hills a bit. Nice little area that pretty much I grew up mostly in almost a neighborhood. So it's kind of like, I just kind of was like, hey, I want to build a studio, and then everyone kind of jumped in
Wow.
and was
Look at the universe helping out again, right?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was like everyone jumped in, and then it was like in 3 weeks the studio was built.
Wow.
It was like we dug out the foundation, we did all the block work, we casted everything, we put on a roof, we painted, we put a little bit of electricity and Wi-Fi in there. And then like my parents had some windows that they never put on their house in their basement, put those in there, bought a door, and it was done.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you have the ultimate creative freedom, bro. Like,
Yeah.
how was that feeling? Like, oh my God, I don't have the stress of New York. I'm here where my birthplace, my birthland. I'm here with my new wife. How is that? How is that life?
Yeah, I remember like the first night that like it was actually done and we could go in there and turn on the light and look. I just kind of like just sat there for like an hour, just kind of like, damn, like, this is like it was like one of those things that if you were to rewind a month ago, you'd be like, I could never imagine this. And then you rewind a year ago, you'd be like, I could never imagine.
Right.
You rewind 5 years ago, you're like, this is like completely impossible and crazy, not gonna happen.
Right.
And I just was like coming to the realization that I'm finding myself in this new reality that just was completely beyond what I could ever imagine.
It was kind of surreal, right? It was like a dream or something, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
And at that time I just was like super energized
to create,
be in there and create.
So
yeah.
So how is like adjusting like everyday life and between you and your wife? How often did were you in your studio, your new studio, and how did you adjust to like, being in Jamaica full time?
Yeah, man, it was for my wife, it was a much easier transition. I thought I was going to transition easier because I was like, oh, I know everything I know everybody, blah, blah, blah. But for her, it was like everything was brand new. So she met it with a certain kind of excitement and enthusiasm. So she had a blast the entire time because she was learning about all this food, all the plants, all the neighborhoods, all the different parts of Jamaica. Like,
your wife is not Jamaican, right?
No, she's from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Oh wow, Midwest! Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Michigan girl, and now on an island. Wow, that's crazy.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So she and also she was doing a tourism business there. So it also like made sense for her she was all focused on immersing herself in Jamaica and what it meant to be a tourist and what it meant to kind of understand everything about the culture. So she was in a really great spot also. For me, the harder thing about it was, Jamaica is just way slower than everywhere else. Like,
right.
you coming from New York, and it's like you have express lanes, you got easy passes, you got all the things that help you move faster, or at least try to get faster. And there, it's like everyone's like, you might get it today, you might get it tomorrow, you might get it next week.
Wow, that pace was too slow for you.
Yeah, I mean the pace was slow, and then for art stuff, like you have to be very strategic about getting your supplies because there, if you buy paint, it's probably 2 or 3 times more expensive than it is here. Like canvas, all that stuff, like you just can't get it at the same price or even at the same speed, just because there's just not much of a market for art supplies out there.
Right.
So just like a few spots. So then it turned into this whole game of me figuring out who's coming in Jamaica and how I can ship stuff and not get duty and tax and all this kind of stuff. And then, like it's all these simple, small things
you took for granted here in the States, right?
Yeah. I mean, Amazon Prime, like anything you want at any given time, you can order it on Prime and get it free shipping a day or 2 later.
Right.
Like, if I want something random and unique, it's going to take a lot of work for me to figure out how to get it.
Right.
or a lot of money.
So did that slow up your creativity? Did that frustrate you?
It didn't slow up my creativity. It just frustrated me. Because I got there and I really had the freedom. So I had a million ideas. I had a million things I wanted to try. And at one point in time, it was frustrating, but also um, that restriction kind of helped focus me too.
Mm.
Because it was like a bit of like, hey, what can you do with what you have? Start that. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you don't have something, what's another solution around it?
Right.
So there was all these things where I had to figure out. Like for example, if I had artwork and I knew that if you make artwork, it has to be able to ship to different places for shows and all this kind of stuff. So I worked with this carpenter to build out my canvases where they can be collapsible. It was like
Mm.
almost like I could take off the canvas and then collapse the frame down into a thing where it could turn into like I just roll it up and it's no longer this thing that's like 6 feet by 4 feet.
Mm.
It's just like almost like a tube that's just like 6 feet tall and then you know 4 inches in diameter. So
Right.
there's a lot of like things I had to figure out and solve and create solutions for, um, which was really all good learning exercise in Jamaica to kind of really be an artist,
Mm-hmm.
and be in a limited an environment that's limiting in terms of all the things you can do in America, and you have to just find your ways around it as an independent artist.
Right. Right. So outside of art, how is everyday living? Um, I know you say your
Yeah.
wife was like, loving it and just embracing it all the way.
Mm-hmm.
But how was it? So you said the pace was slow. You were living, close to your parents again.
Yeah.
How was that lifestyle?
Um, it was it was frustrating at first, and then it became like incredible because
Mm.
um, one is you start really seeing the shift in your quality of life. Like you
Mm.
start to like really shift and understand like what it means to eat food that is not organic on purpose, just organic naturally.
Right.
You start to like see the benefits of um, salt water and sweat and rain. You get a little bit closer to nature in a certain
Mm-hmm.
way. Um, and then on top of that, I'm surrounded by family and a lot of family that's like older family. So those are the ones that I know but don't know so well as much as like my cousins and ones that are like in my age group.
Uh huh.
So I just found myself kind of re-meeting or having a reintroduction to my family from a whole other lens.
Right.
Um, and that's where like things started to like really feel um, like really fulfilling.
Right. So, in terms of your art, right? Being that in
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica, did it hinders you that you were in Jamaica in terms of getting clients and engaging clients, or did it enhance it? Uh, in terms of staying connected with your your
Yeah,
your client base.
yeah. I mean, I think I don't think it did much, to be honest, because most of the communications and most of the things that I've done with art have been through digital means.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
um, I always made sure I set myself up in a way where people would never feel like I was out of distance.
Right.
Um, and then I'd come to New York every 2 or 3 months for some type of project that I would have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it created those moments where it was like, all right, be in New York, do this project, see as many people as I can see really quickly, and then dip back off.
Right.
Um, uh, but I think what it did hinder a bit was the amount of shows I could be in.
Oh.
And like that's the thing that gives you visibility as an artist
Right.
to all the different types of people, whether that's the spaces themselves, the curators, people that are like just art enthusiasts, other artists. Um, you miss that kind of interaction and engagement with your work. Um, so I had to try to find ways to kind of dial it up a little bit more online.
Oh, build your presence digitally on social media and so forth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Did you miss your 9 to 5 check, or
Of course, yeah. They definitely miss that.
or
I mean, you miss a 9 to 5 check, and you miss that good insurance.
oh, so you had no insurance, so you were like,
Yeah.
so did you second guess yourself at times, during the
Yeah, I mean,
process?
you're always second guessing yourself. I mean, like that's the thing. Like with the art thing, it's like it's it's a roller coaster ride.
Mm-hmm.
A roller coaster ride in so many senses because um, the money isn't consistent. It's one of those things that it's like you'll have a moment where you're like, oh man, I'm selling all this artwork, and then you'll have like this dry spell for like 3 or 4 months. Um, with absolutely nothing, and then
Mm.
it goes back up. So financially, it's a roller coaster. Then like emotionally, it's a roller coaster because you'll have these moments where you're doing work and you're in the flow and you're like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. I got skills, blah blah blah. And then you work on a new project and it's like you're struggling through some things and you're like, oh man, am I even good? Am I
Right.
an imposter? Like I'm not an artist. Like what am I even fooling myself?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
so so like yeah, it's just a mixed bag of self confidence and self doubt that you just never know which one you're gonna get that day.
Right. So how long did you live out in Jamaica?
We lived out there for 4.5 years.
Wow. So what got you back
Yeah.
to the
Um,
States?
yeah, I mean, so in those 4.5 years, essentially, I had a daughter.
Oh.
So yeah, so once my wife got pregnant, it was like I jumped into kind of like parent father mode, and I was like, I gotta have a house. So
Right.
then, so then we built a house from scratch,
Oh wow.
um, and tried to race. It was like once again another race to try to get it done before my daughter was born. We
Uh-huh.
didn't make it, of course, but we built a house in pretty much 7 months,
Mm.
um, and then we moved in, and um, and then at that point it was like doing art still, but then people would hit me up that used to work with me, like, oh, I got this small little gig. I would love for you to participate, and I'd be like, sure, no problems. And usually they were like 2 week, 3 week kind of stint of
Mhm.
like, hey, I just got this like pitch, and I need some help kind of putting some ideas together
And this
or
is for
whatever. So
advertising
yeah, it was like folks that I worked with
at Ogilvy.
from like advertising. Yeah, well, not at Ogilvy, KBSP or Media Kitchen or one of those agencies that I worked at before I left.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then my daughter started getting older, and we started looking to put her in school. And we just, because we're located in the central part of the country, and we just couldn't find the right school for her.
Oh.
So at that point, we were like looking for a summer camp to put her in for in New York. And I was like, oh, let me see if I can like get a small gig in New York for the
Mhm.
summer. Um, and then while I was kind of like looking around, seeing what was available, one of my old kind of like mentors and bosses hit me up and was like, yeah, like there's an opportunity in Seattle. What do you think about it? And I was like, man, like I don't know anything about Seattle. I never lived on the West Coast. Like I'm just looking for a short-term thing in New York where I can just quickly pop in and pop out, and I know exactly how to navigate or whatever. And then just through a series of conversations, I just realized I was like, oh man, this is a interesting opportunity. Um, and I found myself like kind of back in that dilemma again of like, do I go right or do I go
Right, right.
left?
So, but you're in a different
um,
place in your life now. You're
yeah,
married, you have a daughter, so it's not about you anymore. You have to think about
no,
the whole.
yeah, exactly. So like, you're absolutely right. I mean, like, it started to be about like, hey, like, I gotta set her up for college in the future, health insurance, like there's all these things that came into play, and I was like, ah, man, like I think one is this is a interesting opportunity that I don't think comes very easily.
Mhm.
So I was like, this presented itself for a reason.
Right.
So let me see about this opportunity and kind of and see how far it can go. So
Right.
that's essentially what landed me in Seattle.
How was your wife when you told her that we're moving back to the States? What
Um,
was her thoughts?
I mean, she was. It was crazy. It was kind of like I was really torn, and I kind of told her about the opportunity, and she came with me to kind of come out here and see things, and she was like, that city's pretty nice, and she was like, this opportunity is pretty dope. Like, you would be crazy if you never took this.
Right. 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 Right.
So yeah, at that point, I was like, yeah, she seems like she's ready to roll, and honestly, I mean, she's been ride or die since we met, so it's kind of like, um, wherever I go, she goes. Wherever she goes, I go. So she was down for whatever new adventure we're gonna go on.
So you packed up your things, say bye to your family and friends, and moved to Seattle. How was that?
Yep.
How was that vibe?
Man, that was another big transition because we got into a way of life in Jamaica
Mm,
that was very Jamaican, like
right.
and then we come here and we got here at the end of June, and the first thing is like nobody told me that out here there's like a summer solstice. So we landed at like 9:45 p.m. and it was full daylight out, and like the sun
Wow.
did not set until 10:30 p.m. And I was like, what the hell is going on in this city?
Wow.
Um,
Right. 10:30.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. In Seattle. Wow.
Yeah, 10:30. I mean, and we're about to roll up on I think next week the longest day of the year. So,
Uh huh. Well,
um,
that was like a year ago, or
yeah, that was a year ago.
right. So what did you do with your
Yeah,
studio in your house in Jamaica? You still have it?
yeah, still have it. It's still exactly like we actually decided to leave it exactly as it was.
Uh huh.
Um, so we came here and kind of started fresh and bought new furniture and everything, and just left Jamaica House exactly intact with the intention to one go back whenever we wanted to for holidays or whatever, but we also probably want to convert it into a kind of like an Airbnb type of vibe.
Smart.
Um, yeah.
Wow. So what's going on with your art now, bro?
Yeah, man. So still doing art. When I first moved here, it was there was so much transition that we had to do that I didn't have as much time to do art. But once I got towards the end of 2018, I started getting back into the groove of things. I got this commission to do a pushpin installation in like this new hotel in Kingston. So that was installed, I believe, like a month ago or a few weeks ago.
Uh huh.
And then I've just been working on new projects. Yeah, just working on new projects essentially. I have a whole bunch of stuff, and because I'm kind of back in this corporate world to a certain degree,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like art is back to a place for me of having very few expectations and doing it in a way that I find my own fulfillment around it.
Right. So it's becoming fun
So
again. It's not like, oh my God, I need
yeah,
to, do art to make a living. It's like something that I enjoy doing and it's more fulfilling.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So like I find myself with a whole bunch of projects that I want to do to as an expression as an artist, but I also have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm doing that's just like literally like, you know what, I have a gift. Let me paint portraits of some folks in my family and send it to them, and like just have like fun doing little things and just using it in ways that doesn't have to be 100% about me being an artist and more about like what I can give to other people. So um, it's having an interesting part of my life now,
Right.
which is cool.
So what's your, big picture end game? Continue with the corporate, doing your thing in advertising, and just continue to do art as your, you know, as a hobby, as a passion, or for friends. You know, is that how do you
Yeah,
see yourself in your future managing both? Because you said it constantly pull you,
yeah,
your artist,
yeah.
the creative side, or your business side. How do you see yourself managing that? down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I realized that I can never stop doing the art thing, so it's gonna always be there. And I think where what my long game is being able to be in a space where I can constantly create on my own,
Hmm.
and still have a day job, but hopefully there's more of an overlap, you
Right.
know, an overlap where either I'm doing stuff in the art industry or some of my work informs some of the things that I do during the daytime, um, and just seeing how much I can bring all those worlds together, so it feels like I'm just living one existence.
Right. Any regrets? Any regrets? In terms of the decision you made to
Uh,
chase your art, move to Jamaica. Any small, large regrets?
I can't really. Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I have any regrets. I mean, I think there's probably like things that some mistakes I've made along the way, but to be honest, it's like you can't regret those because those mistakes are what kind of give you a whole new perspective on things and push you into the right direction.
Right.
So I can never devalue those things because those probably helped me grow the most out of everything.
Right.
Um, um, and I think the only thing I would say if there was a regret um, is recognizing that potentially living in Jamaica would come to an end.
Mm.
And uh, if I was thinking with that in mind, I would probably do less work and a little more enjoying Jamaica, you know? Um,
Oh, I see. I see. I see. You
yeah,
didn't. You were
because
actually
honest,
focusing on building your legacy, your family, long term in Jamaica. So you were focusing on just making things happen. You didn't really sit and just enjoy the beautiful weather, the food.
yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was like I say, like that first year that I was there, like I was in that studio all the time,
Mm.
you know, and
Right.
and and especially like in those situations, you're in the studio by yourself all the time, um, and and that's like that's the drawback to doing art sometimes is like it's a really solitary kind of
Mm.
experience. So you're trapped in some four corner room, trying to do something by yourself that you can't explain to anybody and no one can
Mm.
understand what you're trying to do. So you know, you're in a certain kind of confines, and doing that for a long period of time isn't that great,
Right.
you know?
Right. Being that you toggle between what you're good at and what your passion or what
Hmm.
you're passionate about, any advice that you give anyone who's on a 9 to 5 that they're very good at, but their passion is also driving them and tugging at them? What advice would you give anybody who have that same dilemma you had, um,
Hmm.
you know, between art and your 9 to 5?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would say is honestly, you only live this life once. You're only given this life once,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to take the opportunities that are in front of you, um, and live it as boldly as you can because uh, things change, things adjust, you evolve, and when you have a passion and you have a gift, like you have to treat it as that. You have to treat it as something that you have to hold precious and leverage it in some way. So, um, like when you ask me if I have any regrets, like I don't because I actually decided not to have regrets. When I decided to move to Jamaica, when I decided to pursue art, like that was the thing that I was fighting against. I was like,
Mm.
I don't want to have a regret. I don't want to feel like I missed something in life. I don't want to feel like I don't want to ever be in a situation where I'm like, oh, I should have done that. Or I could have done that.
Right. No regrets.
Yeah.
And look where you land, in a beautiful environment. have an amazing wife, a beautiful family, a beautiful
Yeah,
daughter.
appreciate it.
Seem like you're in a better place, and really, if you didn't take those, risk, and you didn't follow your heart and passion, you wouldn't be where you are right now. So,
Exactly.
this is the reason why I wanted you to tell your story, because I feel like there's a lot of people who, who have trouble trying to figure out what their next move is. Do I stay, play it safe,
Yeah.
or do I follow my passion? And you're a great example of someone who followed your passion, and you still ended up in a great safe place.
Mhm. Yeah, man.
Well, man, thank you for telling your story, man. I feel like it's a great one. I can't wait to share this with my audience, and appreciate it. Appreciate you telling your truth, bro.
Anytime, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Glad I could share something of value to other folks.
Thank you all for tuning into Reverse Ambition Podcast. It is really a pleasure sharing these amazing journeys with you. It may take some time for you to find your purpose and realize your dreams, or for your purpose and dreams to find you. When it happens, don't be afraid to pursue them. Be more afraid if you don't. Trust God, trust your journey, and most important, trust yourself, and it will all work out. Until next time, I am Kelsey Cooper, the Social Broker. Thanks again for listening.